It is perhaps in Asia where the effects, except for the Gulf, the effects are being felt and the immediate consequences of the straits being closed to shipping. Most of the oil that goes through the straits eventually travels east. And with little spare capacity to protect against energy shocks, governments across Asia are rolling out measures to manage the strain. So whether it's long queues for fuel across the region, places like Bangladesh are saving power by closing schools and universities early. Now a UN panel on inequality is meeting in Johannesburg. The economist Jayati Ghosh is there and joins me now. I get at one level, Jayati, it's sort of obvious that if you haven't got the fuel, people are going to suffer. But I don't think in many parts of the world it's appreciated how Asia is bearing a brunt of this.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's not just Asia, it is the poor in Asia, and it is the working poor, those who are running micro enterprises, self-employed, those who need cooking gas because they're, having food stalls in the streets. They are suffering because they're unable to get cooking gas. It's not just that it's higher priced, they're unable to actually access it. And when they don't provide the street food, it means the working class that relies on that street food has to pay much, much higher prices. So it is really the poor across South India, South Asia, across most of the region, other than China, that is really already suffering from this.
You see, the real problem, though, is what you do about it. Because at one level, yes, you can release strategic petroleum reserves in other parts of the world. But if, what is a solution that actually alleviates the suffering when there isn't the oil or gas to deliver?
Well, I think you're absolutely right that the absence of inadequate reserves is a major issue, and it's something that all governments have to take into account now for the future. But it is also the case that there are better ways to think of distributing this when there is a shortage, that you do not deprive those who will lose their livelihoods because of this, that you do not deny those who would go hungry for that absence.
Isn't this just an example of a sad truth that we've always known, which is in real times of desperation and trouble, it ends up being every man or woman or country for themselves? It's not nice, but that's what happens, and that's what we're seeing.
Well, that's not true, because there are some countries that are handling it better, and there are other countries where the poor or those who are relatively worse off are left to fend for themselves. And this is really what our meeting today in Johannesburg was all about. We want to set up an international panel on inequality, which is looking not just at the extent and nature of inequality, but the drivers of this inequality so that we can do something about it. And what you are observing is a very typical driver, that shocks affect different countries differently depending on where they are in the global economic hierarchy, and that within those countries, they affect the poor most. But these are not inevitable. These are policy choices.
Right.
There are countries that have learned how to handle shocks.
Okay, but the idea of an international panel on inequality sounds good. But how do you prevent it turning into just basically a talking shop? And more significantly, if the US isn't going to become involved, then you're hiding to very great difficulty. I'm not saying it's impossible, but this is the sort of thing that the US would have led in the past.
Well, yes, but let's forget about the past. Let's deal with the world we're in now. And what we are talking about is a scientific panel that will look at the nature and causes of inequality, the extent of it, how it affects different categories of people and countries, and what can be done about it. It's a scientific panel that will advise and be able to assist people and governments to deal with these shocks, deal with these processes that are generating greater inequality, and deal with the inequalities that are also destroying our democracies. So the US can choose to be involved or not. I don't think that would affect this panel.
I'm grateful for you joining us. And when there's more to talk on this, we'll talk to you again. Thank you for joining us this evening.